After 14 years, 3 iterations, and 2 different processor architectures, the iconic wedge design of the MacBook Air is finally history. In its place is a brand new MacBook Air with the same thickness from front to back. Virtually every feature of the new MacBook Air has been upgraded or altered. It's the biggest update to the Air since it originally arrived about a decade and a half ago. These kinds of adjustments are significant because the Air is the laptop of choice for millions of users. Beyond that, the Air sets the norm for thin and light laptops that every other manufacturer seeks. In addition to the aesthetic and hardware upgrades, this new Air sports Apple's latest in-house CPU, the M2. It also comes with a bigger price tag. It starts at $1,199, $200 more than the model that preceded it, and a device with a significant amount of storage goes $1,499 or more. As a result, Apple is maintaining the previous M1 model in its range, mostly to provide an option for the many MacBook Air users who do not want to spend more than $1,000 on a new machine. Diet or Bone dubbed the M1 MacBook Air a triumph at the time. That's quite a standard to live up to, and with all of the adjustments Apple made to the M2 model, it's fair to wonder if this new model can better the earlier iteration. The majority of the time, the answer is yes, but, as they say, the devil is in the details, and there are a lot of them here. The new MacBook Air inherits a lot of its appearance and shape from the MacBook Pro 14 and 16 that debuted late last year. It's more symmetrical and squared off than previous MacBook Air models, with a more brutalist look. Yet it's remarkably tiny, just a hair more than 11 millimeters, and its thinness is immediately apparent when you open the lid and begin typing on it. It is also noticeable when you put it in a bag or carry it about. The tapered design of the earlier MacBook Air had less visual weight and appeared lighter, but the current model is truly slimmer than its predecessor. It's also somewhat lighter, weighing 2.7 pounds versus 2.8 pounds for the previous generation. That's not a significant difference, and the Air is far from the lightest computer you can purchase, but it does make it highly portable and easy to bring around wherever I need it. Overall, I like the new design. It's modern and refreshing and functionally functions really well. Some might miss the wedge shape, but I'm not one of them. This new Air is a stunning machine, and I believe the design will serve it well for the next 5 or even more years before Apple modifies it again, unless, of course, you get the new midnight color. This new hue is stunning out of the box, with a deep blue-black gloss that can shift depending on the light. However, as soon as you take it up, it is covered in greasy fingerprints that are difficult to remove. It severely detracts from an otherwise impressive finish. Apple is far from the only business with this issue. With black aluminum Razer laptops have been fingerprint magnets for years, but it's significant enough that I wouldn't buy the midnight variant. I've also tested a model in the silvery gold starlight color, and its surface is fingerprint-free. Despite its lower profile and reduced weight, the new Air is no less sturdy or well-built than before. The chassis is strong, the lid has close to zero flex, yet it still can be opened with a single finger. Apple continues to lead the field in terms of build quality and fit and finish, and the new Air is no exception. The new midnight color choice attracts fingerprints. In addition to its design, the new Air adopts the resurrected MagSafe charging port from the MacBook Pro 14 and 16. Which lets you charge the laptop without fearing that tripping over the cord will send the device plummeting to the floor. It also comes with a color-matched braided cable in the box, whereas the more expensive Pro models do not. Apple's also giving you a choice when it comes to chargers. The base model Air includes the well-known 30W brick that has been around for years. However, the step-up models included a new compact 35W charger with 2 USB-C ports, or a larger and more powerful 67W charger derived from the MacBook Pro line. That larger brick can fully charge the Air's battery in 30 minutes. You have a choice between a smaller, slower 2-port charger or a larger, quicker 1-port charger for the updated Air versions. Both come with a MagSafe cable that matches the color of the device. On the updated Air versions, you can choose between a smaller, slower 2-port charger and a larger, faster 1-port charger. Both come with a MagSafe cable that matches the color of the device. The MacBook Air M2's MagSafe connector was plugged in. MagSafe charging effectively adds a USB port, but they remain on the left-hand side. My review units arrived with a 35W charger, and while it's small and portable, I'd rather have the more powerful charger. In testing, the 35W brick only charged the Air 25% in 30 minutes with the lid closed, half the pace of the 67W brick, and those speeds were further slowed down when I hooked my iPhone into the charger's second socket. I wish Apple had just put 2 ports on the more powerful brick, but there are lots of cheaper third-party choices with greater power and more ports than Apple's options, and they function perfectly with the Air's MagSafe connector. Thanks to that MagSafe port, you practically gain an extra USB-C port over the earlier model. Instead of using one Thunderbolt-capable port to charge the computer and the other for peripherals, though you can still charge through USB-C if you choose, you can utilize both Thunderbolt-capable ports for accessories. However, there are only 2 ports, both of which are on the left side. It would have been nice to have ports on the right side as well, and while it may be a pipe dream at this time, a USB-A port is still quite helpful for many accessories. You'll have to keep that USB-C hub in your backpack after all. Finally, Apple continues to limit the new Air to a single external display, so if you want to connect your laptop to more than one monitor at the same time, you'll need to upgrade to a 14-inch MacBook Pro, which allows up to 4 external displays, or find another solution. The keyboard on the new Air has also been stolen from the 14-inch MacBook Pro. It boasts a full-height function row, Touch ID, and, thankfully, no touch bar, which is still curiously available on the current 13-inch MacBook Pro M2. The keys have enough travel and are well spaced. They are also significantly quieter than previous MacBook models with the notorious butterfly keyboard. If you're switching from a previous Intel-based MacBook, the keyboard may be the most noticeable upgrade, simply because the butterfly keyboard on those older versions was so terrible. Similarly, the trackpad isn't much different from prior models, but it's slightly wider. It performs similarly in terms of functionality, with good scrolling, gesture support, and palm rejection. In an unexpected move, the new Air's deck lacks the speaker grills that are seen on practically every other MacBook model. Instead, the speakers are incorporated between the keyboard and the display for a sleeker design. The new Air is equipped with the same full-height function row and Touch ID sensor as the MacBook Pro 14. The headphone jack is still functional. The new speaker system comprises of 2 tweeters and 2 woofers and supports Apple's spatial audio technology. The redesigned speakers sound slightly broader and less echo-wide than the M1 Air, especially at full volume. However, the change isn't significant, and they don't compete with the bassy thumpers found on the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros. Still, the speakers are significantly superior than those found in other laptops, and they sound fantastic for video calls, viewing TV shows and movies, listening to music, YouTube, or everything else you might need to listen to on a thin and light machine like this. The branding is the final design feature worth mentioning here. The Apple logo on the new Air is approximately 30% larger than on previous generations. It's not noticeable unless you compare it to an older model, but it's definitely there. Ironically, that's the only branding on the laptop. It doesn't actually mention MacBook Air anywhere on it. It is not beneath the exhibit. It is not located on the bottom panel. It's nowhere. All you need to know is that this is a MacBook Air and not another machine. Maybe Apple will alter the name of this model to just a normal MacBook at some time, and then it won't have to change the outside. The M2 MacBook Air is opened, facing the camera. Its display is up and running, and it features a psychedelic purple and black wallpaper designed by The Verge's art and illustration team. The new Air has a little larger and notably higher display than the old one. It does, however, have a notch. A new display is included with the redesigned design. The screen on the Air is a touch larger than previously, 13.6 inches versus 13.3, but much of that extra space is obtained vertically because it's a little higher. The bezels around the screen have been shrunk, and the corners of the screen are now rounded, as well, providing a more modern aesthetic than before. The new display is brighter, too. Apple boasts 500 nits versus 400 of the previous one. It registered 434 inches my tests, which makes it easier to use outdoors and just more comfortable to stare at all day long. In true Apple form, it scores well on color accuracy and reproduction measures, covering 100% of the sRGB spectrum, 84% of Adobe RGB, and 95% of P3. The brightness isn't as striking as the mini LED panel seen on higher-end MacBook Pro models, and the dark levels and overall punchiness can't compete. It also doesn't have the promotion faster refresh rate for better scrolling that those devices benefit from. However, the new screen is a significant upgrade over what was previously available, and it outperforms the one found on the 13-inch MacBook Pro. The term responsibility refers to the act of determining whether or not a person is responsible for his or her own actions. Unfortunately, the new Air, like the 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pro models, now has a notch in the display, and, as with the other models, the notch causes some major problems when I'm using the computer. The M2 MacBook Air on a table displaying the About This Mac window over a purple marbled background. In addition, the new screen is slightly brighter than the previous models. It's not so much that the notch is particularly unsightly or distracting as it is that it fundamentally changes how I use the menu bar on a Mac. I'm a big fan of menu bar apps, and I have a ton of them for things like clocks, calendars, to-do lists, system monitoring, and other utilities. The notch's position and size mean that most of the time, my menu bar applications just don't show up like they're intended to, and I can't even reach them. There are third-party menu bar apps that can make this work. The current version of Bartender solves a lot of my problems, but it's aggravating that a third-party program is required to make Apple's own design acceptable. I'd rather have a slightly thicker top bezel than deal with the annoyance that is the notch. Fortunately, the camera inside the notch is the same 1080p device used in the larger Pro models, and it's vastly superior to the terrible 720p camera found in the older Air and the new 13-inch MacBook Pro. It's sharper, has more detail, greater color and contrast, and overall looks better. Combined with the Air's 3-mic array, the new camera works brilliantly for video conversations. The terrible camera was the one thing that kept the M1 Air from receiving a perfect score, so I'm extremely delighted to see it has been fixed. If you like the video, give a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel for more updates.